So if you're like me, you never expected to find yourself in this position of being a caregiver. I know I didn't. And unless you actually went to school to study and become a therapist or something, then you're kind of wandering around in the dark and don't know what to do. And I can honestly tell you that it gets easier with time. And what you need to do is be gentle with yourself and be gentle with your survivor, because you will make mistakes, and that's not a bad thing. It's just how you start to get your way through the process. And the mistakes are just what you learn from, and you take those with you and go, okay, that didn't work. What can I do differently? And you try the next thing. And if that one doesn't work, then you try the next thing. And eventually it kind of starts to fall together, and your survivor starts to know what to expect from you. And so the two of you end up working together instead of fighting each other. And when you get angry, it's okay. Just step away and take a deep breath. You'll be fine, and it'll come back to you, and you'll get past that piece.
One thing that I would recommend for caregivers and for stroke survivors is to keep a journal, because you can track so much of your progress that way, and you will realize the little things. And there's a lot of little things before you can have something big. You have to move forward at a pace that you can live with. And there's going to be times when things don't happen quite as quickly as you would want them to. We learned early on that the brain heals 10 times slower than any other part of your body.
And even another thing that I could tell the caregivers is that, number one, when you get home, call that doctor anytime you want. Talk to his nurse anytime you want, day in and day out, and they make them give you information. Ask them questions.
My little piece of advice would be, don't forget yourself. I did that and exhausted myself. And someone told me, it was actually a doctor, pulled me aside and said, Stacy's going to need you to be strong for her. You have to take care of yourself. And I would advise people to call on others, allow other people to help you, because it can be an exhausting task to do this all alone.
I just have to learn to be patient with him. And my mother-in-law I've had to learn to be patient with too. So it's been really life-changing.
Caregiving it's a very hard thing, but it's also very rewarding. And you don't know what you can do until you have to. Keep trying, keep asking questions, keep teaching, keep helping. It's still the same person. It's just hard for them. And they are just like you in every way.
You have to be sure that you get a chance to do things for yourself, to get away. You have to find some time, whether it's with family who come and stay with them, or you hire someone to help you, to take care of them. I have hired CNAs now, and it gives me a chance that I can get to the Y to do some water exercise, since I've had a hip and both knees done. I can't do jumping jacks on land, but I can do them in the water, and I try at least 2 or 3 times a week to get to the Y. That gives me a chance. Then I can run my own errands. I can volunteer somewhere. I can work at the food pantry. Sometimes I'll do that. They'll call me on a day when I have help, and I just get out and I try to do my own thing, because you can't be total for them 24/7, or soon you may be the victim. And just recently we've buried a caregiver, and it broke my heart, because I know how much she took care of her husband and did that well, but life goes on, so you have to protect yourself. And that's one thing that the kids keep after me, Mom, you've got to do things. And just recently I put him in respite care for a week, and I went to Branson with 5 other ladies, and we laughed and we laughed and we laughed, and it really rejuvenated me, just like camp would rejuvenate me. When I'd come home from camp, I'd figure, hey, I'm gung-ho for another year, because that was so much fun to be together and share with caregivers and see your stroke victim have a chance to be with other stroke victims and see that maybe he's going to realize he's not as bad as that one, or, you know, he's got it better than someone else. So that you really have to protect yourself and take care of yourself.
Well, I think be patient and have hope. It's not the end of the world right after they have a stroke. He wasn't expected to live that night. It was like a, I don't know, 1% chance he'd live through the night.
I did, though.
And he did. So have hope. Never give up hope, and be patient, because it'll come. So
You can only do so much in a day. Don't try to cram everything in, because it's not going to work. You have to make a priority. What can I do today? And then put the rest of it on the list for tomorrow, because tomorrow will come and you will get to it. And I guess another thing I've learned is that don't be afraid to let your spouse survivor see you cry. We cry together, and the whole family cries together.
I write down everything. And if it might be, sometimes I feel silly because I bring something up that it's not even, I feel like, wow, it's not even important. But who knows? It might be important, and the doctor will see it, because he's seeing it from a medical perspective, and you're seeing it on every day. I spend 24 hours with him, so I know that whatever it comes up, I write it down and I say this, because I've noticed that when he goes to the doctor and the doctor says, how do you feel? What's going on? Oh, great, great, great. And I go, well, hold on, let me get my notebook out and let me tell you this. And I think that's the best thing, is to start documenting everything.
Don't deceive yourself. It is a very thankless, difficult job, which you're going to have 24/7, no matter if you have another caregiver in the house to help you or not. And it gets easier just by tiny little steps. It doesn't just go away overnight.
Sometimes you think you can't do it, but you can. It's going to be a tremendous change in your husband's life, and your life, and your family's life, your friends, every situation, work, your playtime, your together time, all of it's going to change. I'm not saying that the change is bad. I'm saying that you will have the change, but be patient, and if you believe in a higher power, cling to that, because you'll need it for strength. And you need your family and your friends, your church, the support group. You need them to lean on, and you can ask for help.
I can't again stress enough to just be gentle with yourself, because you really are in the dark, and you don't know what's the right thing, and there will be days when it's so hard and you honestly believe that you're not going to get through this. And I can honestly tell you, you will. And you will be grateful, and you will look at it and go, this, in a very backwards way, was a huge gift that I got to help this person. And in some ways, the help came back to me too, just in learning a little bit about who I am and what I have to offer.
It's going to be slow. You have to encourage the family to be involved. Having a caregiver is an extremely important aspect of a stroke survivor's ability to gain and improve. And it takes an enormous amount of patience. And it's a very difficult job. Being a caregiver is probably one of the most difficult jobs in the world, and I have to admit that. And I've been through a lot, 30 years of practice as a heart surgeon and everything else, and been a veteran in the Vietnam War and over in the battle zone. And so I do understand a lot of the issues that people have, and that are challenging. And we like to use the word challenging rather than difficult or hard. And we like to use the words hope, and we sometimes use disappointment instead of depression. I felt that even with my career as a cardiac surgeon for 30 years, that I was totally unaware of what the neuro world was, and the neural problems and the neurophysiology problems were. And it was extremely difficult for me to understand what was going on. And as a caregiver, until you've lived it 24/7, you don't get it, period. And so on-the-job training is something that you can very few people can train you into that. I had a few people warn me that it was going to be longer than just a year. Some of the people said, well, it'll be about a year, year and a half. If I'd known it's a possible 9 or 10 years, like I read about in a book that I read, then I might have a better concept of what the future might be able to hold, and I would continue to have much more hope and not quit.
Don't rush it. Just go along. If she was tired, go along. My daughter's a nurse and was a big help to me in this all along, and our son was too. But Kristen she had worked with people like her mom before, so she had understanding of what, and we just went along, and it took time. I mean, a year ago this time we took a trip to Mexico, and she's better. She's a little bit better this year than she was then. So the improvement is there, and we just take our time, you know.
You know, what I've fought to do is preserve part of my own life, okay? And so I continued to work, okay? I ended up shifting my day to really early mornings, but I still had something that helped me keep my sanity. A lot of the things that I lacked were basic cooking skills. Like, for example, when I compare a woman caregiver to a male caregiver, the woman has been a mother. She knows how to keep her kids occupied, challenged, not fighting. She knows how to feed them properly. She knows hygiene. As a typical guy, I would work, you know, and commute and come home and spend my time on the kids' activities with my wife. I never had to worry about meal planning. So for several years, as you start changing one emergency after another, I tended to bring fast food in a lot, okay? So, I mean, it's one crisis after another. Well, 10 years later, you know, at some point you realize that's probably not the best thing. Well, what do you do? Okay. So I would say for me, year number 11 in caregiving was a really major breakthrough in terms of eating healthy, hygiene, looking for quality of life improvement activities for my wife.
My wife had a stroke a year ago or 2 years ago. You will get better. You just got to work at it.
Well, I would kind of reiterate what Georgia said. Don't ever give up.
Yeah.
Don't ever give up.
One thing I would say to new caregivers is understand that emotion, the tears. He would cry and cry and cry and not understand why. He would go from angry to crying or back and forth. Then he'd be fine for a while. And my understanding later, a couple of years later, was that emotional up and down is very normal. It's not at all unusual for folks to struggle that way. But understanding that in that moment, they've had a brain injury, they're angry or whatever, in that moment is not the time to tell them that they're wrong or that you're mad at them. In that moment, it's calm. You have to maintain calm and go back and visit it at another time. I had someone give me some advice once that says, you just need to chew him out. So I thought, well, maybe I'm being too nice. So one time I confronted him in that moment, and it escalated beyond belief. And I realized that that was not fair for me to do that to his brain. I don't think it's fair when the brain is already overstimulated and misfiring for someone, you know, to be critical and cross in that moment. So, and early on, those emotions are up and down, and accept it as a part of a little journey that you have to get through, and it will get better.
It's going to be hard, It's going to be a roller coaster. There's going to be good days. There's going to be bad days. More so in the beginning, bad days. It's really hard to see the person that you were with and then see them different, see them having the problems because you want to fix them and you can't. And so it takes some time to getting used to them being different, but they will. And they're still the same person. They're still the same one you love and you want to be with.
Have a lot of patience, a lot of understanding. Don't try not to get frustrated too easily. Give them time to react to what you tell them, and don't jump on them, because they're not doing something that you want them to do now. Give them time to do it. They have to process it, their request, and word it in a gentle manner. Don't demand and order. Make a request. Give them choices. Do you want to wear this shirt or that shirt? Do you want shoes or dress shoes or sneakers? And let them be as independent as they can under the circumstances. I mean, you want to keep them out of harm's way, but you want them, they're adults. Don't treat them like children because they're not, and that's really hard.
And then again, I just have to stress that at some point in there, you must take care of yourself. You can't give to them all the time. You have to find some time to step away. And that doesn't make you a bad person. It's completely normal. If you can't take care of yourself, then you have nothing to offer to them. And that's where they need you the most. And so never apologize for saying, I need a break. I need somebody to step in, and just for whatever that happens to be, a day, a morning, just meeting my girlfriends and going for a walk. Was just like, thank you, get out of the house and, just take a deep breath and know that there's some other piece of the world that exists out there.